Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow.
Take the message, everybody.
Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good.
Yeah, my name is Jasnity Kaldata from City, Vietnam. And since 1965, I become a voter. And I always place my ex next to the cop. And what they are doing today, I can't take it. So I have no more vote to give to PPP anymore. I'm not going to vote anymore no more. If they have to lose by one vote, they're losing it by data.
Oh, Jesus Christ, if cost of living double, I don't know what happened. A pound of sugar is $300 already. Flour, everything gone up. Everything just raising. You gotta get about $40,000 for buy good ration. You gotta get 3 man now. A weekend man, a monthly man, and a fortnight man.
So if I got children, I must suffer them to take what I don't want to eat for myself. That is totally wrong.
What?
And the parents got to stand up.
Rhonda, really thank you for taking time out. I'm not going to let you go now. I know you're a very brave person. You're out there in front of GCOM. We're not seeing a lot of people out there, but give us an update on the protest every week in front of GCOM.
Tuesday we had 8 persons. Exceptionally.
One second, Rhonda. I kind of like, honestly.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah. There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Sue? Oh, Sue, my relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend.
You said valid votes counts, votes cast must, more votes cast.
Thank you so much for that. But if I could have a point of privilege, this is a family dialogue. If one person wants to talk longer, I am available to listen. So we're going to do this like we're sitting in the kitchen. I want to hear from you.
How old are you?
I am 28, sir.
And where do you live?
In Kitty.
You own your own home?
Not as yet.
Applied for a house lot?
Not
Well, sit down.
Are we gonna do a body man walk right now? You ready? Boxer, let me go now. Hear me sing now. Body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body walk, truck, body walk, body walk, body walk, everything. Body, listen. Body jump, body jump, body jump, everything. Body jump, body jump, body jump.
Okay, well, hey, guess what? Good night and welcome to Straight Up. My name is Mark Benchop. Whenever the operator, that's Lemon, whenever he gets his act together and removes this thing from off the screen right away, you guys know how we feel about Lemon and the way he operates. It's either he's going to do a good job as an operator or we'll just have to dismiss him. What do you guys think? Look what he has on the screen. And nobody gave him the permission to do this. So this is advertising a press conference. We don't know what this press conference is about, but trust me, tomorrow, that individual that you're staring down, you're looking at there on the screen, that same individual, you know who that individual is going to be barking and barking and barking and barking tomorrow. That's what they're going to be doing, barking and barking. And you know, the thing is, they're not going to want to tell you anything about Sue. They're just not going to want to tell you anything about the corruption, the billions and billions of dollars that's going into their pockets, into their relatives' pockets, their friends' pockets. That's what is happening. And with $1 billion oil industry, just the oil, we're not talking about the gold or the smuggling of gold. We're not talking about those sort of things. Billions of dollars in that country. But yet the people are living in starvation. The people at Little India, the people at Little Africa there on the quarantine, the people in All Boys Tongue, in Tiger Bay. You go to them, you talk with them right now, and you ask them if their lives are better off today under a corrupt, racist apartheid regime, and the answer is absolutely no. A big no. Their lives are not better off today. They were better off, for the most part, under the coalition government. Regardless of how you want to look at it, we've got to be honest with ourselves. Things weren't perfect, but the level of corruption that we're seeing right now, we hardly saw that under the coalition government. It's not to say they didn't have 1 and 2 Pakus in the coalition or 1 and 2 trench crappos in the coalition. Oh yeah, every government will have corrupt individuals. But look, this corrupt installed PPP regime seem to be the ant's nest when it comes to corruption at every level, from the top, the middle, and all the way down, till dunk, as they say in Guyana, till dunk at the bottom. So tomorrow at this thing's press conference, all he's going to be doing is barking and barking and barking and barking with nothing of substance. Absolutely nothing of substance. He complains, he views out, he raises his skirt, whatever he has to raise, and he bacchanal on you guys, right? Again, nothing of substance. When you watch press conferences of leaders, tell me, as we are preparing to bring Tom Anderson on with you guys tonight. Tom is already in studio. Our operator just messaged to say that Tom is there. He just gave them the thumbs up. He says, hey guys, he's ready to rock and roll with you. But look, at this guy's press conference, do you walk away with anything that makes sense? It's just bickering. It's just crying. It's just complaining. You know, look, we've all went to nursery school. Well, most of us in this audience. There are some who just didn't go at all. Irfan if he's watching, Kwame, if they're watching, they never made it through nursery school. Even nursery school, a nursery school child, a kindergarten child, or pre-K would never walk away with anything that makes sense out of this guy's press conference. He complains about Nigel, he complains about Aubrey, he complains about this, and complains about that. Every single thing he cries and cries about. He doesn't offer you guys any hope, none whatsoever, as to how they are going to develop, as he said, develop. How he's going to develop the country. You cannot develop the country with corruption and racism and segregation and discrimination and all these sort of things. You cannot develop a country like that. And that is why whoever did this to this guy did a perfect job. This is exactly how majority of Guyanese view this political culprit. This guy who has caused so much problems throughout the length and breadth of the country. Almost all of you would agree with me, right? Including our friend who loves to taste food. Good night to all of you. Let's get ready to bring Tom Anderson on with us. And before that, let me just thank you guys so much for sharing the link as we get ready 14 minutes after 9 o'clock. I want to talk a lot of things about GCOM, right? Nothing is happening on GCOM other than corruption and corruption and corruption. But as we say, you know, Tom Anderson is with us. We want to ask him about Biden. But before we get to Tom, look at that. The Chinese it looks as though they know what to do. And look at the crime there. Look at the gun. Look at the money. But guess what? According to the police, 39 million Guyana dollars. And you see all that money right there. Money like cheese, money like rice. Look at it there. Take a look at it there. And look at that rusty gun. Probably came from Beijing or wherever. Well, I doubt that. I doubt. They probably get it from Prattville too. Borrowed it from somebody connected to Jack. Who knows? Who knows? But $39 million. But this is what we're hearing. That allegations that the police probably stole someone. I don't know. Allegations. We're hearing that it's 1 minute. We're hearing it's 80-something million dollars. We're hearing it's over 100 and something million Guyana dollars. But according to the police, they declared $39 million. And the police are so honest these days. They wrapped everything up and said, look, this is what we found. $39 million. We're hearing the Chinese are saying, no, ni hao ma. No, me no get 39. They thief me money. So Tom Anderson is with us. And what a good way to start. Good night to you, Mr. Anderson. How are you, sir?
Hey, good night, Mark. Good night, everyone.
Yeah, let's start right off the back there. $39 million. But what is interesting here, though, Tom, is we are hearing here in Guyana, investigations thus far revealed that the suspects, that's the Chinese suspects, are part of a transnational criminal group involved in gold smuggling and other illegal activities. Start right off with that. Are you surprised that the Chinese have gotten caught with this sort of thing?
I mean, this is where, you know, when the sanctions hit just a few weeks ago, they hit because remember when I came on, we talked about the sanctions. I said, hey, the problem with not controlling what's coming in and out of your government is you force everyone, whether they are businessmen or smugglers, everyone has to go the illegal route because the government isn't offering a legitimate route. And so once that happens, you end up with these criminal syndicates, right? And once the criminal syndicates get into place, they don't want to stop. And so they're putting pressure then on the corrupt government officials to begin with. So now there's even more pressure there, and it continues to spiral out of control until you have something that would be like a corrupt narco state or something like that. And so if they don't, and so this all starts with controlling what's coming in and out of your country. That's where it starts, having a system where the government actually tracks what's coming in and out. That's where it starts. If you don't have that, then you're going to devolve into a narco state, some kind of failed state, no matter how hard you work. And that's what this is an example of right here. And look, the Chinese, when they come here to this part of the world, they don't have very many friends. Okay. It's not like over there in Asia. You know, they don't have a lot of, they do have power over here, but it's not like in Africa or in Asia. They have to watch their back. And so what do? They form up in teams. And of course, you're going to get syndicates like this. And if you've got a country like Guyana where you've got billions of dollars a week worth of gold being smuggled out, yes, the syndicates are going to get onto that. And that's what this is all about, really.
And you have been hinting at that for quite some time, right here on 107.1 FM. Tom Anderson is with us, no stranger. Since you said that the Chinese are there, and we don't want to paint all of the Chinese nationals with the same brush, there are lots of hardworking ones in Guyana. We want to take the time to recognize them indeed. But there are some corrupt ones, and they have some friends as well. Take a listen to this before I get to my next question. Tom.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Zhurong?
Su? Oh, so my relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, he is a friend of ours.
A friend of ours, according to Barra Jackdale. This was a while now, just a little over a year, going in 2 years. We heard about this thing here. No investigations, nothing at all. Tom, are you surprised that Barra Jackdale, neither Air Finale or even members of the Guyana Police Force or SOCU, which is the Special Organized Crime Unit there in Guyana, thus far, they have done nothing to investigate the allegations, the serious allegations that were uncovered and made by Sue, but uncovered by Vice News. Are you surprised?
Well, you know, once again, we go back to something else that I've been talking about a long time. And so when you have a situation, and look, and Jack Deo and the PPP, they have a serious problem on their hands. And the problem that they have is, and it was proven with the latest sanctions. Okay, if you look at what the U.S. government said, what's happening is on the government level in Guyana, people are in the government level are making up documents. They're making up stuff. And so when you're making up documents on things like gold, you know they're making up documents on timber. Well, when you look at Mr. Sue, he owned almost half of Guyana's timber industry himself with his companies. And so if he's shipping out all this timber and he's having to depend on a government apparatus that isn't making accurate paperwork, well, now Mr. Sue, whether he likes it or not, is a part of the smuggling in Guyana now, whether he likes it or not. He has the legal right to go after that timber like he did. He has a legal right to export it to the numbers that the Guyanese government allows him. But when the government itself won't keep proper documents, it makes everybody a smuggler. So that's the problem they've got, is they don't have on a government level control of what's coming in and out of the country. And the people on the government level are either corrupt, or they're being bought off, or they're being intimidated, or all of the above. And that's where all these problems are coming from, I believe. And that's why you can't get the police to do anything, because what can the police do? If the police want to go and investigate, but they know everyone that's in power above them doesn't want them to investigate, well, what are they going to do? There's not much they can do if they're not empowered, right? And so it just trickles down from there. And I think that's where the core of the problem is in Guyana right now is it's the bureaucracy, it's the corruption within the government, ministers and other people that are running the government. This is where the corruption is. And part of it is because they've gone years and years and years without a modern system, right? But then on top of it, part of it is people get hooked into these syndicates in these groups, and these groups don't want to let them stop. They want them to keep going. Even if the world is telling Guyana, nah, you can't be corrupt anymore. Well, these syndicate guys are there saying, no, 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 we want to keep doing our business. So that's the problem now that they're having. It's a serious problem. And I don't know how they deal with it if they don't go directly at these bureaucrats and start cracking down on these guys to make sure that the government is doing its job right.
Looks as though they have started with a cracking down. Some of the government officials have been sanctioned. We've heard that visas have been revoked by some very senior government officials, senior members of the government, members of parliament on the PPP side. They have been very silent on that. We're not seeing Bara Jagdeo traveling to the United States. Other senior members of the government, they're not traveling to the United States. That by itself is very, very suspicious. But before we get into that, the sanctions, nothing at all is being said other than for the first 48 hours or 72 hours in Guyana, it was a big issue. But the government has gone, not surprisingly, but they have gone silent on this matter. Your take on why they're so silent, Tom?
Well, it's difficult, right? Because when you look at what the U.S. government said when we issued the sanctions, what we said was that our records, when we look at people importing gold into America from Guyana, when we check, they tell us when a ship comes, we're carrying 1 ton of gold from Guyana, and it's fine, right? But then when our government goes to Guyana and says, hey, we just want to make sure that you guys have the same numbers we have. We're showing we just got a 1 ton shipment of gold into our country from you yesterday. What do you have on your books? And what Guyana's showing is no gold leaving. And so that's the problem is on the Guyana side, the numbers aren't coming up right. It's in the other countries where people are declaring the gold. They're declaring it, but they're not. But for some reason in Guyana, it's not being documented, right? And so the reason why it's so silent is because, well, how do you fix a problem where the people who are responsible for documenting every single ounce, they're not documenting it properly, and no one knows why? Now, it could be a combination. It could be that some have been corrupted, some are being threatened or pressured, or it could be that some are in there on purpose to be the ones corrupting and to be the ones pressuring, because it could be a situation where the government officials are shaking down gold miners in the country. Okay, no one knows. And so for the government to be silent, it screams out it's the government who's at fault here. It's the government. And so that's why when I saw Jagdeo say that, oh, they're going to start cracking down on gold smugglers. No, the problem is the government, man. I don't know about, I understand that there are gold smugglers, yes. But he was saying people who were like painting pots that were made out of gold, they would spray them with silver paint, and those are the people they're going to catch now. That's not the problem in Guyana. The problem is the export controls, the governmental controls, the people that are in charge for tracking this stuff. That's where the problem is, and you could tell from our press release that that's where the problem is, and that's why they're silent, because they're the problem. They are the problem.
They are indeed the problem. At 25 minutes after 9 o'clock, this is Straight Up on 107.1 FM. Tom Anderson, no stranger, absolutely no stranger. He has been following and keeping a careful eye on Guyana, the corruption and the politics. Tom, the sanctions against the Mohammed and that government official and others that we haven't heard of yet publicly. The regime, the PPP regime, has said they want information and they'll write to the U.S. government. It turns out that they didn't write and they weren't doing anything. But the U.S. government said to the government of Guyana that if you want to write to them or to us for information, that's the U.S. authorities, there is a process. You've got to go through the Department of Justice. You're telling me that government officials in Guyana, including the Attorney General, didn't know that? And they had to be told that by the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem that we have is that, see, I just don't know. I was looking at something recently with Jagdeo when he was talking about how they're using the oil money properly and in a responsible way. And saying that they don't want to go back to the 90s when they were borrowing all this money. And I'm like, well, in the 90s, you didn't have this oil wealth. In the 90s, there's a lot of stuff you didn't have. So yeah, you're going to have problems. I don't know how, in my opinion, I don't think the people on the ground in Guyana not feeling the effect of the oil money has to do with Exxon Mobil or anyone outside of the government of Guyana. I think the problem is some way, somehow the money is going there and it's not being accounted for. And they're giving the people peanuts is what it seems like to me. And so I just don't know how they continue to think that, having a situation where you're having government officials get sanctioned, you're having people with connections to high level people in government getting sanctioned. You have people that are getting caught by Vice News disappearing who own almost half the industry of timber in the country. You got all that going on, and then the people aren't feeling a real big impact from the oil revenue coming in, and there is revenue coming in. Well, these will just sound like excuses. Okay, this isn't about them, using the money in a sustainable way. It seems like to me, it looks like to me they're not keeping track of the money, and they don't even know where it's going. They don't even know what's going. So until they get a handle on what's going on, we're going to continue to hear excuses out of what's going on. But what the problem with that is people can only go so long with the excuses, and not just the people of Guyana. There are other interests here, business interests. I'm sure Exxon doesn't want to hear like they feel like people are pointing a finger at them like they're ripping off Guyana when, nah, man, the money's going there. It's that no one's keeping track of it, and it's not going to the right places. In my opinion, is what it looks like to me.
But everybody can see that Exxon is getting a field day there in Guyana, making a heck of a lot of money, billions and billions of dollars. They fly for free. They fly first class, business class. They live luxury lifestyle there from the, the Hotel Marriott and all these fancy stuff. Every single thing they do, it's the Guyanese taxpayers who pay for it. The ordinary man, woman from Alwayston, Tiger Bay, Port Morant, Little India out in Guyana, Little Africa in Linden. Those are the people who pay for that sort of lifestyle for the folks there at Exxon. And Exxon is milking Guyana, and they're throwing peanuts. So guess what? The Guyanese taxpayers are paying for the folks at Exxon to become billionaires and millionaires and all these sort of things. And the peanuts that the Guyanese people get back, forgive me, guys, when I say Guyanese, you guys know why I say Guyanese, people get peanuts, Tom. Peanuts. And then when they get the peanuts, the knuckleheads in the PPP regime, the Judeo and those guys, they crack the peanuts and they take all for themselves and their relatives and their friends, and nobody knows where the peanuts that they get, the little crumbs that they get from Exxon, nobody knows where it goes. And then they jump up in the morning and they say, we're going to give some cash grants, crumbs again to the people, 25,000 Guyana dollars, which is just about a little over 100 US. And the people must be comfortable. They must rush up to them and hug them and say, oh, we love you guys. You guys are doing us a great favor by just giving us $100. Don't you think by now the majority of people in Guyana have opened their eyes to see that they're getting a raw deal, one from Exxon Mobil, and they're getting even a bigger raw deal from Barra Jagdev and Irfan and the PPP. How much of a loser?
Yeah, well, I'll say this about the ExxonMobil part. The reason why I don't feel like that's a raw deal is for this reason. What comes with ExxonMobil is the U.S. government and that infrastructure. And trust me when I tell you, without us, Venezuela's taking all that oil. Like Guyana's not going to get any of it. I'm just letting you know. So that's
even without that, Tom, that, Guyana ain't getting nothing. The Marriott Hotel in blackout, the AC, the air conditioning not working. Throughout the country, blackouts upon blackouts and starvation and cost of living and unemployment. Unemployment is on the rise. All these things, Guyana ain't getting anything, Tom, other
that's
than
what
frustration
I'm saying.
and officials. That is all.
That's what I'm saying to you. What I'm telling you is because there's a problem on the governmental level in Guyana, the pressure has to be on Jagdeo and the PPP huge from all parties. Why? Because everyone knows that there's ample amount of revenue available. The problem is the government itself isn't accessing it for some reason. and it could be corruption. We know that it could be a bunch of different reasons, but the bottom line is that's the pressure and that's the issue that they're facing. How do they fix that issue is the question. And is the opposition party in a position to ask to hit this situation the proper way, right? To get answers and to get a government that changes and gets to a point where it actually tracks what's going on so that it can actually access the revenue that is there available to it. Because I'm telling you right now, man, just from the gold sanctions alone, there's more than enough revenue available. They just have to go ahead and access it through the government, which is that's them counting every ounce and charging the taxes. It's not that hard.
Not that hard at all. 32 minutes after 9 o'clock. Hey, guess what? You're watching Straight Up on 107.1 FM. For those of you on the ground at Border Market, lots of folks with their big screen television set. They're watching us right there. So let me say shout out to the vendors at Border Market, Stabrook Market, and other parts of Guyana. Good night to all of you guys. The Fulton Market area there as well. Tom, I want to touch on the fact that it is my view that Exxon has gotten a sweetheart deal and nothing is really going to the country, and the little crumbs the country is making, the PPP regime is just grabbing all for themselves and their friends and their family members. That's about it. Nothing is really trickling down to the people. 50,000 jobs they promised the people, nothing at all. Not even identify one area that they have created real jobs to the people other than dog food vending and other stuff that they're doing, that the part-time workers, we're not hearing nor seeing anything about real jobs, real development in the country. Are you surprised, still in Exxon, are you surprised that Barrett Jack Dave, of all persons, is talking about conflict of interest? He has recently accused Nigel Hughes, who just became the leader of the Alliance for Change, a very small third party. It was a little medium size, but it has gotten very, very small. Nigel Hughes is now the leader of that party. Barrett Jagdeo is accusing Nigel of conflict of interest with Exxon Mobil. Nigel, the lawyer, conflict of interest, according to Barrett Jagdeo, of all persons. But ExxonMobil's president in Guyana came out and said, no. There's no conflict of interest there with Nigel Hughes, that they at ExxonMobil, they're playing by the books. They're sticking to the law. Your take on the actual comment coming there from the president of ExxonMobil there in Guyana? Surprising?
No, no, man. I mean, look, if Exxon, so let me get this straight. So Exxon has had Nigel Hughes publicly contracted to them as an attorney.
What Barrett there's conflict of interest with Nigel Hughes, and the fact that Nigel is now leader of the the AFC. Jack Dare wanted to launch an attack against Nigel Hughes and say, don't believe Nigel Hughes. This conflict of interest, he will more lean towards the side of ExxonMobil because Nigel represents Exxon, and Nigel is basically demonstrating a conflict of interest. The president of ExxonMobil Guyana has said, no, there is no conflict of interest there with Nigel Hughes, and whatever they have done it based on the laws of the country. First time we've heard such a strong statement coming from Exxon.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised. I mean, look, it's normal in the United States for attorneys to run for office. And when they do, for them to have to deal with interests involving the corporations that they worked for before they ran for office. So there's no problem there. And for the Exxon guy to come out, I don't blame them. Look, they have, when you think about the oil business, it's one of those things, man, where they have to invest a massive amount of resources. I mean, of money, human resources, engineering feats that are unbelievable. I mean, we're talking about, and then the geopolitical issues surrounding. Look, man, when Exxon comes in for doing an oil thing with a nation like Guyana, you better believe they're going to have the deal done in a way to secure their ability to get the oil out of the earth. Okay, and if that means that they have a deal that looks favored towards them, the reason for it is because of all the problems you see going on right now with the PPP. Exxon has to deal with these countries like Guyana that are being led by the PPP, and these guys aren't really nice guys all the time, okay? And so when you're dealing with those guys, you better make sure you have a solid contract in place, because people in Guyana even know, if you don't have a solid contract in place, what will happen if the PPP have power? What will they do to that contract? What will they do? Okay, everyone knows they will take any loophole they can, and they will drive mega trucks through those loopholes on you. And so when Exxon comes in and they're dealing with a country like Guyana, and they know they have people like the PPP to deal with, yes, you better believe that contract is solid, and you better believe it tilts towards them. Why? Because of the amount of money and resources they've got, billions and billions and billions of dollars that they are risking up front on an investment that hopefully pans out. And the only way it pans out is if the PPP do a good job governing Guyana, and someone like a guy like Maduro doesn't decide to try to steal it all, which is not an easy feat. So that's why you have the situation you have. And that's why it's imperative that the PPP take this situation serious. Why? Because it's for everyone's benefit in the region to see a government like the Guyanese government handle this situation with the oil properly and in a way that isn't corrupt. Because if they can do that, that leads to the region itself becoming more empowered and being able to go after more oil resources, and for the people in the region to become more empowered and enrich themselves. That's the way it works. And so Guyana's at the tip of the spear here. It's important. They're leading the pack. The PPP better wake up and get serious, because it's not just Guyana that's at stake here. It's everyone in the region. And that's why these contracts are the way they are. And that's why Exxon is as serious as they are. And they're saying what they're saying because it's not just Guyana, it's the entire region, and it's no joke.
You know, lots of Guyanese, I think majority of Guyanese are of the view that the oil should have stayed right there. Because if the oil is being drilled and billions of dollars being made out of that, and nothing, basically crumbs, amounts to nothing for the Guyanese people, they are of the view that leave the damn oil right there. Guyana's had oil. Former president, the late President Lyndon Forbes Burnham, he knew it, and he knew that Guyana couldn't afford to drill the oil out. So leave the oil right there, because one of the things we do say in Guyana, that oil doesn't spoil at all. And now the oil is being drilled out of the country. The country, majority or 99% of the people are still in poverty, so to speak. Public servants are not getting a good salary at the end of the month. Of course, the nurses, the doctors, the lawyers, the policemen and women, they're not being paid at all. Imagine people getting what is considered, about $250 per month, $250 per month, maybe $500 per month. It depends on where they work. In an oil-rich country, an oil-rich economy, Tom, with the people just under 750,000, and you're telling me people are still making $300, $300 US a month, $400 US a month. Unemployment is high. Nothing for the people. Hundreds of young people out from the university, they can't find a job. There's nothing for them to do. You know how many young people out of the University of Guyana are at home? You know how many of them are selling dog foods? You know how many of them basically have nothing to do? They're looking for greener pastures. And people outside of Guyana are rushing to Guyana, and they're the ones who are making the money. They're making hundreds of millions of dollars. They're supporting their families outside of Guyana by working inside of Guyana. And the people who live inside of Guyana can't get sufficient money to even go to the markets. How unfair that could be, Tom. But I agree
You're
with
correct.
you. It all boils down to the government. And if the government is as corrupt as they are right now, headed by Air Finale, who was charged with 19 counts of fraud, 19 counts of fraud, blocked from entering Canada, cannot produce his university degree, and all manner of things. No wonder why the country is the way it is right now. Do you, as an outsider, so to speak, or as an honorary Guyanese now, do you see any hope for the Guyanese people, sir?
I do, and so here's the thing, right? You're right that the people in Guyana feel like, well, you can just leave the oil in the ground, but the problem is the rest of the world needs the oil. And the reason why the rest of the world needs the oil is because we have countries like Russia that are out here and they're using oil as a weapon. Okay, they just are. And when you have a country as big as Russia is in the oil industry using oil as a weapon in a war that they're waging around the world, then guess what? The resources that are here, the world needs these. That's why I kept saying every time I come on the show, Mark, I keep telling you that Guyana is important to the world. This isn't about just Guyana anymore. And the people of Guyana need to realize that this isn't just a squabble between the PPP and the APNU or the AFC or the PNC. No, man, Guyana is now on the world stage, and the world needs the oil that Guyana has, period, end of story. Now, here's the issue.
Tom, if you stick a pin right there, the world is looking in at Guyana. The world needs Guyana and the oil. But what about the people? The people have to stand up and say, well, one second, sir. The people got to stand up and say, well, the world needs the oil. The world loves Guyana right now. But who loves the people of Guyana? Who is looking after the interest of the people? They can't depend on this corrupt, this kleptomaniac government that is in place, that was actually installed. And maybe Exxon is having lots and lots of regrets. And the other people who, quote unquote, installed the PPP are obviously having lots and lots of regrets, Tom. The people of Guyana, the Guyanese people, they need proper representation and they need more of that oil wealth. Right now, they're not getting a cent. Sorry that I had to interject.
I 100% agree with you. That's why I keep saying, right? So where it starts for the people of Guyana is with the government of Guyana. And it's not just the PPP. Even though the system in Guyana is a winner takes all, right? The opposition has to become more powerful politically. It has to become more organized politically.
One second, Tom. I didn't hear that. Who has to become more organized and powerful?
The opposition.
Oh, they have to become opposition. The opposition. Yes. Continue, please.
Yes, they have to become more organized. They have to become more politically powerful, okay? Because it's imperative. It's 100% imperative that the people of Guyana get the proper representation on all levels, from local all the way to the top. They have to get it, because once the people of Guyana have the proper representation, then guess what happens? There are people like me, like you, like others all over the world who are available to help in all types of ways, right? But we're just not there. And the reason why we're not there is because the government itself isn't functioning properly. But it takes a grassroots effort from the bottom of organizing the people to get to a point where you have a government that's representing the people properly, so that on the world stage, the Guyanese people can prosper the way they deserve to. I mean, it's really that simple. There's no other way to get the people of Guyana to prosper the way they deserve unless the government itself, the government of Guyana on all levels, does the proper job to ensure that, because no one else is going to do it.
Absolutely. And here it is that I'm sitting and I'm thinking that big, powerful companies and maybe like Exxon and so forth, they're not so bothered about democracy and freedom of speech and transparency in a country. They're more concerned about oil and drilling the oil and just getting the goddamn oil out of there, and no interest about the people. Maybe if they do a little football match here and there and sprinkle a little crumbs, that is sufficient. But at the end of the day, Big companies, large companies, when they go into a country, whether to drill the oil or gold or whatever, as in the case with OMI, the Canadian company there, and OMI, and now we have Exxon and so forth, they're not concerned about the people. They're not concerned about the welfare of the people. And if they can ensure, and I use this term here, ensure that they have a government in place that will look out for their interest and not necessarily the interest of the Guyanese people. We saw, and Tom, I'm sure you recall, that even with the oil, in the event that there's an oil spill, the people were calling for an insurance that Exxon had to take out. An insurance, the court ruled that an insurance should be taken out, and Jack Day stepped in and said, no. Every single time Jack Day went near finale, they stepped in favor and to protect Exxon, not the people of Guyana. They are protecting Exxon. And big companies, when they go into small countries and they rip the country off with billions and billions of dollars, they look for politicians they can control. And if they can't control this set right now, they would look for another set that they can control. And those that they can control will look out for the best interest of their company. That is just how it is. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, Tom, the ordinary people, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their religion, they are the ones who get the raw deal. Oftentimes it happens. Tom?
I agree. Look, everything you said, I agree with. I 100% agree with. And look, I experience that here in the United States. We all do in the US. We see and we bemoan and we complain about how we get abused by corporate interests here all the time. All right. It happens all the time. How do we protect ourselves in the United States against corporate greed and corporate abuse? We get government representation. We group up as people and we get our government representatives to go after these guys. And so I give you an example. Boeing, which is a company just as, a huge company like Exxon, multinational company, military weapons, bombs, missiles, they send things to the moon, they do everything, right? They had a problem with their planes. The doors are flying off. And what happened? The U.S. government went after them straight up. And now they're about to plead guilty, pay a huge, they're in big trouble. That's what Guyana needs, right? Is a government that when a corporation is getting out of line or abusing, that the people can reach up to their government representatives, and those representatives will go after that corporation. We'll fine them. We'll take them to court. We'll do whatever is needed to defend the people. The problem is in Guyana right now is, and look, this isn't a final thing with the nation of Guyana, but right now in the moment, the government hasn't caught up to the status of the country. So the status of the country has gotten way above where the government's at, and they need to quickly get their feet up under them and start getting everything in control so that they can be responsive to the people of Guyana, so that they can actually stand up to Exxon if there's a problem, and when there's a problem, not if, when there's a problem. But here's the issue. With the way it is now, if the government isn't working right, even if Exxon wants to do the right thing, how do they know to do the right thing? Because Exxon's going to come to the table doing what they know to do. And the only way they know to do different if they're doing wrong is if someone in Guyana tells them. But if you have a situation where the government isn't speaking up for the people, well, then how do you blame Exxon? You see what I'm saying? So that's the issue we have is no one really knows what the government of Guyana is doing in the interest of the people. It's easy to blame a corporation, just like here in America. It's easy for us to blame corporations. But at the end of the day, our only recourse is through our representation in government here in America, and it's the same in Guyana. And so people can cry and people can point the finger. I don't know if that's a good thing. I think it's better to organize, to speak with each other, to group together, and to get your government correct so that they can stand up for the people to get things right between Guyana and Exxon if there are any problems. I mean, I think it's that simple.
Well said there, but people have already lost interest. They have no patience. They have no confidence in the corrupt PPP regime of standing up and representing their interests. We have seen over the years that the corrupt PPP regime, they have represented the interest of the big companies, the foreign companies, ExxonMobil and so forth, with the oil spill insurance and other stuff, and 214 million US dollars in terms of what Exxon said that they've given an invoice and an audit and all these things. $214 million missing. Taxpayers' money missing. And Jagdewan finale, those corrupt folks in the PPP regime have left it to go aside because guess what? They probably get a kickback out of that. And so they are not interested in standing up and fighting for the people of Guyana to get a fair share. What Jagdewan they're fighting for is for themselves and their families and their concubines and their cronies to get a share. To hell with the ordinary citizens. The people get nothing other than they get shabby roads being done. The roads completed today and it's broken up tomorrow. That is what's happening in a country. You bring in a ship that could possibly ease the electricity problems in the country, and the ship that is there to resolve the problem has become problematic itself. So lots and lots of corruption, Tom, in that country. And it's about time people stand up and hold their elected representatives accountable, whether it is this corrupt PPP regime or whether it is those in the opposition. And many of them are sleeping on the job. They're not standing up. They're not representing the interest of the people. And the people are saying enough is enough. Now let's move over to, let's move
By the
over
way,
to
Mark, you're right about that. You can hear the people are tired of it, and that's why there's so much stress over Nigel Hughes and what's going on there. See, right now, politically, man, Guyana is a great place to be because there's a lot to happen politically, okay? And that's good for the people of Guyana. See, I think we are seeing progress. I think we are. I think I think the PPP and others are feeling the pressure from the people. They know they have to come through. Okay, they're feeling the pressure from the outside. The sanctions came in from the U.S. government. These guys are feeling it, man. And so it's up to the people now to take this energy and direct it to the right place. And to me, the right place is starting off with a very good, transparent government where you know exactly how much gold left the country. You know exactly how much timber left the country. You charge tax for every single thing that left. That's what should be asked for. That sounds boring, but I'm telling you, if the people just ask for those two things, that we want to make sure that every ounce of gold is tracked and every single pound of timber is counted and taxed, two things will happen. First thing is you will see a bunch of corruption leave the country, number one. And number two, you're going to see your revenue jump through the roof where everyone will be able to get checks immediately just off of that alone. So that's the boring stuff that has to be organized and pushed to have happen. And I believe it can happen. I believe the energy is there to do it. It's just the people have to direct it through their elected officials to make it happen, in my opinion.
And I agree with you too. And it calls for strong governance, strong leadership as well, because when these corrupt officials, we cannot, Tom, again, I repeat, we cannot expect anything better from this corrupt PPP regime. They have a history of not making things right with the Guyanese people. They have a history of corruption. They have a history of skullduggery. They have a history of blood on their hands, of phantom squads and killing squads and drug lords and all these things. Tons and tons of cocaine shipped out of the country. That is their history. That is their legacy, Tom. And because of that, majority of Guyanese can sit back and say, well, look, we cannot depend on these people in this current regime, to make things right for the people of Guyana. They just cannot depend. And so they need strong leadership in the country, strong leadership that will go after corrupt officials, not only fire them, not only reshuffle them, but ensure that they're charged and prosecuted, and if possible, jail. Corrupt officials have to start being jailed in Guyana, whether they are president, former ministers, they have to go to jail for stealing the people's monies. And if I have my way, a lot of them will go to jail. A lot of them will be charged, and a lot of them will have to pay back the people of Guyana for the millions or the billions they stolen from the people there. Now let's stick here to United States of America. Maybe we'll jump on a train or a bus and go to 1600. That's big. Elections around the corner in the United States of America. Your take on Joe Biden? Lots of talks. I've heard the Black Caucus guys came out today. There seem to be some for him to be replaced, saying no, not be replaced. Let us get your take on that, Mr. Tom Anderson.
Well, look, I've written on this. I've also done a few videos on it. I've got my website, lastgovernmentwatchdog.com. I've got a little 25-minute video I talked about this. Look, and for the people of Guyana who are watching, and this impacts, Guyana, because who we have as president will have an impact on the nation of Guyana going forward. Period. End of story. Especially during this presidency right here for this election. And so when you look at a situation like what's going on with Biden, what you have essentially, if you're a Guyana and watching this, if you're even outside of Guyana, you're watching this, what you're seeing right now is what happens whenever a U.S. presidency heads into its second term, which we call like a lame duck term type of a thing, because what happens is U.S. presidents can only run twice, and on that second term, since you can't have a third term, everyone knows that guy won't be around or that woman won't be around, so then no one really has to listen to them. And so it's a weakness. It's a weak part, like the last 2 years especially. But because of Biden's age, it has sped up, and because of the way politics are fast, it's sped up. So we're already at the place now where the Democrat Party, they're already trying to replace the leader now. Okay, that fast. And they're using, some people within that party are using his performance in that debate, along with a boatload of money from the Republicans, dark money, right? Advertising and other things on social media to pummel Biden into maybe stepping. Then there are powerful forces within the Democratic Party who can take the reins, and for them, they would rather take the reins themselves or let Trump have it. I mean, this is how greedy some of these people are politically. So with that said, that's what we're looking at. And it's amazing when you look at it from that perspective, because you can see in the media breakdown, the New York Times, which is normally a liberal paper, was like the first one to come out and tell Biden to hit the road, right? And that's because the liberal interests or the Democratic Party side interests that back the New York Times, whoever that is, they want to take control of this presidency, and they see weakness and they see a chance to jump on it now, and they're jumping. So that's the problem that Biden, he's facing a battle from inside and outside, and the media is the main tool that's being used on the inside against him. And it's he's facing politically, what he's facing is tougher than most politicians have ever faced politically, what he's facing right now. That's how hard it is.
Just a couple of days ago, there's a radio station out in Philadelphia, I believe. The journalist got fired of doing an interview with Biden, and they were inside information to do and what not to do. And you're correct in terms of the media, but should the could be so concerned with a presidential candidate, an incumbent president who is up there in age, so to speak, saying to be still debate, the country seemed to be peaceful. You don't have a district and all manner of things where all Americans, all the people in the United States of America feel comfortable. Do you think they are looking more at that or looking more at the other candidate with 34 felony convictions?
Yeah,
should
well,
be more important to people to be so concerned about.
Yeah, if you look at what's happening in the media, here in the United States at least, all of it is Trump central. Okay, and that's because, like, right now in Guyana, there are some people there. The regular people are looking at Exxon and corporate interests, and they're upset about it. Well, we have corporate interests here in the United States that control our media. And right now, those corporate interests want Trump in the center of everything, no matter what happens, because that works for their bottom line. That's a win-win for them, right? And so that's what we're dealing with on our side right now. The United States is a corporate America that has demanded that you have a Trump-centric worldview on everything. So that means you're not going to hear much about the issues that the American people are facing. What you're going to hear mostly are things that help Trump and hurt Biden. And that's what corporate America wants right now. And that is what we're seeing. And I don't know if that's going to change.
Tom, we've got to speak more on that some other time. Elections right around the corner, November. Tom, let me ask you with regards to what you're seeing here now with the elections. Folks are asking for Kamala Harris. Do you foresee that in the next few weeks happening? And do you see Biden stepping aside? What are you seeing from your crystal ball?
So I don't see Biden stepping aside. What I see him doing is empowering Kamala Harris to be more of a co-president. I've written about it. I think it's to the benefit of the United States now. And I think Biden has an opportunity now to make the vice presidency a much more powerful office. And
all right.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Tom.
Sorry, but I was thinking to do that and to start that off by giving Kamala Harris more during a campaign. And so that's what I see happening. That's what I think is going to happen. I think the Supreme Court of the United States just came down with a ruling that basically makes our president like a super god above all laws, almost, basically, right? But I don't think I think Biden has an opportunity to diffuse that power. The Supreme Court just gave his office, and the best way to do it is to empower a Kamala Harris. And look, I think that's a legit approach from here to Election Day, which is, hey, Biden may be an old guy, but what he's doing is passing the torch on to the next generation. And the person he's handing it off to is Kamala, and she's now in a process of learning the job, like learning on the job as vice president. He's giving her more powers, more responsibility, and that's how we're going to go. And I think if that's the approach, I think they win in November.
All right, that's what happens. Vice presidents, they're usually there to learn on the job. Biden learned on the job under Barack Obama's 2 terms. George W.H.W. Bush learned on the job with his 2 terms as president under Ronald Reagan. And then it was the guy with 2 terms under Bill Clinton. What's his name again? Al Gore. And that Florida elections count. Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Al Gore, the man who should have been president. But that's another story. Tom, as you close off, let me just take this quick 30 seconds break to give you an opportunity to close and offer the Guyanese people some hope. Just as our superstar Eddie Grant says, give me hope, Joanna. The people in Guyana are saying, hope.
There and fabricate that. Unless you say who the person is, I can't comment on anonymous people.
Okay, well, let's talk about specific individuals. What is your relationship with Mr. Su Jurong?
Su? Oh, Su? My relationship? Nothing. He's a tenant in my place, yeah.
And he's a good friend of yours?
Yes, yes, he is a friend of ours.
Yeah, my friend, my tenant. Yeah, I rent to him. I do everything. He's a friend, and all manner of allegations against him. And right after that, guess what he did to sue his friend? He evicted his friend. He said he's going to ensure that he sue his friend. He's going to do all manner of things. Bitterness galore in Guyana, and that guy is the #1 bitter guy in Guyana. Tom, offer Guyanese some sort of, please.
Well, the good thing is that, like I said before, the world needs Guyana, and Guyana is in a position now to lead the region for the next 100 or so years in a way that you know, no one could ever imagine even 10 years ago, right? And so that's what should be thought about. That's what should be spoken about, is the posterity of the nation itself. It's time to get back to the basics, right? And for the people themselves to just start organizing. We have the communications technology now to organize. You don't need a lot of money to do it. Organize yourselves, stick to the basics, demand just a government that's responsive to the needs of the people above all else, right? And I think that's where you start. And I think that's an easy thing to accomplish now. And once it's accomplished, what we'll see, I believe, because just from what I've known, look, I know the PPP is a rough crowd, okay? And there are a bunch of rough crowds in this world, all right? But what I know about the people of Guyana is, given the opportunity to be leaders on the world stage, the world would be a better place to have a nation like Guyana be in a leadership role. And so the opportunity is there. Take advantage of it. But the only way to do it is for the normal people to start organizing on the ground level and start empowering their elected officials from the local level above to start representing their needs, period. End of story. As the only thing they do, right? Their elected officials have to represent their needs and their needs only. And if they can do that and just organize and make that happen, Guyana has a bright future, man.
A bright future indeed. But as people look into Guyana, those right there in Guyana, they're not seeing that bright future, especially under this corrupt PPP regime. And as that magazine right at the back shelf, it's a magazine there by, I assume you really love Prince back in the days, Purple Rain and so forth. And there's a song by Prince, Sign of Times. So, sign of times, right? The signs of the times in Guyana, they're not looking bright under a corrupt PPP regime. Sign of the times, Prince indeed. Tom, as often, we are very thankful. We appreciate your time right here on 107.1 FM, our honorary Guyanese. We thank you so much, Tom. Tom, you've started some projects. What's going on? Where can people see your podcast and so forth and so on? Give us.
Okay, yeah. So, yeah, Last Government Watch, www.lastgovernmentwatchdog.com, lastgovernmentwatchdog.com. That's the main place. My Twitter feed is LastGovWatch. I'm on Facebook too. I just started a new group called the Friends of Guyana in the Americas and Caribbean. So that's a nonprofit group, and I'm hoping to have a forum in Miami where we can just have an open forum where people from Guyana and from the Caribbean and America can speak on the issues going on in Guyana. Come to Miami, speak on the issues, get things out in the open. And I just think bringing everyone together, as many voices as possible, to start speaking in a place like Miami, I think is a good thing for Guyana. So I'm trying to get that off the ground, and we talked about it a little bit, but this is the initial phases of it. And hopefully it works out, but that's the goal.
Thank you so much, Tom. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and all of those good things you're attempting to do for Guyana, and not only Guyana, but in the United States and other parts of the world, to make, as Michael Jackson say, to make the world a better place for you and for me. Heal the world, indeed. That is what we want to do. Heal Guyana, indeed. But charity begins at home. Those in Guyana, the Guyanese people, must want the country to be healed. Heal Guyana, and heal it quickly. I'm just reminded that the guest of the Marriott Hotel, the AC is not working. Some of them are messaging me. Life of misery in Guyana under the PPP regime. $1 billion industry, oil industry. The wealthiest country in the world, one of them, oil-rich country. But people are struggling. People are punishing. Shame on the corrupt PPP regime. Shame on those kleptomaniacs. But Tom, thank you for keeping hope alive for us, or for the people there in Guyana. We appreciate you on behalf of all the people who are watching. Thank you so much for what you do, sir. God bless.
Thanks for having me on, Mark. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. All right, Tom Anderson there for you guys, telling it like it is, right here on 107.1 FM. We'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow, Annette Ferguson is going to be on. Yes, Annette Ferguson, the member of parliament and the shadow minister of housing. She will be on in this house tomorrow, and we'll have a nice chat with her about things in Guyana. But again, Marriott Hotel, what's happening? No, the people might as well just go and do, what do you call it? Bed and breakfast or whatever in Albaiston or Tiger Bay or something like that. Airbnb, or is that it? Yeah, go on Tiger Bay instead of going to Marriott. Nothing is there. Corruption upon corruption. In the Marriott Hotel, people are crying out, people are punishing at the Marriott Hotel. Up to now, Jack J can't tell us what has happened to the deal. What has happened to the deal there at Marriott Hotel? What has happened? And now we're hearing now, what is it? Police investigating death of Marvin and his brother Elias Joseph. Police are investigating an alleged double murder committed on Marvin Joseph, his 17-year-old laborer, and his brother Ellis Joseph, a 30-year. That's in Essequibo. Every single day is something. A little child, a 6-year-old, I think, or a 7-year-old, somewhere thereabouts in age, got shot and injured. We've got to pray for that. A Venezuelan woman was murdered, shot in the back of her head. All these things happening under a lawless government. Corruption in the police force, corruption in the Guyana Defense Force, corruption in the Guyana Prison Service, corruption in the government, corruption at office of the president, corruption all over. And the people are frustrated every single day. Oh, gosh. That's it for me. I need a cup of coffee right now. That's it for me. I'm out of here. See you guys tomorrow. Sorry that I got to get off the air like this. It's like I'm not giving up. Got to get hope. But when you watch this thing tomorrow, barking and barking and barking, it is as though Guyana doesn't have it. There's no future in Guyana and under these vagabonds, these corrupt vagabonds, no future. They rig the elections, they corrupt the system at every level, in every institution. Corruption upon corruption upon corruption. They got to go to jail, guys. They've got to go to jail. Sam Guru and Guru Suru, they've got to go to jail. These sanctimonious gangsters have got to go to jail. Mark Phillips to this day cannot respond to anything about the US $25 million from the Guyana Defense Force that was allegedly paid to Larry Singh for arms and ammunition that never received while he was chief of staff. Guys, they have got to go to jail. They have got to go to jail. I'm ready to go. You see, I'm taking my tie off. You guys know I don't do these sort of things on the air. I just don't do it at all. But these guys have got to go to jail. I'm out of here, guys. I'm just out of here. I am sick and tired of these vagabonds in that corrupt, installed PPP regime. Have a good night, guys. But remember, keep hope alive. God bless you.
Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. Take warning, you better take warning. Take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine right. Respect your fellow man as you should. The evil that men do lives after them. The evil that men do lives after them. Your evil today will blight your tomorrow. So do good today and avoid your sorrow. Take warning, you better take warning, you better do good. Let your light shine bright, let your light shine bright. Respect your fellow man as you should.
Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko licky love the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko licky love upon the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love upon the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko kissy love upon the dam and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Police are come and the gala holla murder. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, police are come. Sanko boy, you better run. Sanko boy, policeman are come.
Sanko chase the love upon the dam and the gala holla murder. Sanko chase the love upon the dam and the gala holla murder.
Police are come and the gala